Joining me now is Congressman Khanna, Democrat of California. Congressman, thank you for joining us this evening. To recap, just how many investigations Donald Trump is facing and where things stand. The next hearing in Manhattan DA's hush money case is scheduled for December 4th. The Washington Post is reporting Fulton County, Georgia DA Fani Willis may be just weeks from indicting Trump over his attempts to influence the 2020 election results. Trump's civil trial stemming from his alleged rape of a writer in the 1990s will reportedly move forward at the end of this month, after Trump lawyers tried unsuccessfully to delay it. And special counsel Jack Smith has reportedly added possible wire fraud to his investigation of Trump, in addition to the former president's role in the January 6th and handling of classified documents. In spite of all of this, we're hearing Trump spent last night telling top GOP donors he is the undisputed head of the Republican Party and their only viable 2024 candidates. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Reverend Sharpton, I think you laid out the contrast very well in your opening monologue. President Biden is showing statesmanship on the world stage in Ireland. He is going around the country with his administration touting bringing manufacturing jobs back. And the former President Trump is consumed with all of these investigations. Putting aside the merit of each one, I think a voter is going to look at this and say, President Biden is helping my life, helping the country, helping the world. Do we really want 4 more years of investigation? How does that help my life?
On Friday, the Supreme Court blocked lower court rulings that restricted access to key abortion pills, temporarily restoring broad access to the drug, just hours after Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed the state ban on abortion after 6 weeks, which some have cast as a move to strengthen his standing with conservative voters ahead of his expected presidential run. Despite reports that some in the Republican Party are worried they may have overreached on abortion and will end up paying for it with independent and swing voters in next year's election. Now, what do you see happening here, Congressman?
DeSantis is so far out of touch. Let's just be clear. His position is more extreme than Ronald Reagan took, than either George Bush Sr. or George W. Bush took, or Donald Trump took in 2016. They have a ban with no exceptions for rape unless you provide documented evidence. You have to go prove to the state that you were raped in order to get an abortion. It is so far out of the mainstream, and it's odd to me that the only person who seems to have learned the lesson that they got crushed in the midterms on abortion is Donald Trump, and he's pleading with the party not to take these extremist positions. But they will lose badly if they run on things like that Florida law.
California Senator Dianne Feinstein has not voted since late February, and she deals with a severe case of shingles virus. Her absence impeding the ability of the Senate Judiciary Committee, on which she sits, to vote on President Biden's judicial nominees. You called for Senator Feinstein, who is 89 years old, to retire now rather than finish out her current term, which she has pledged to do. You tweeting last week that, quote, she can no longer fulfill her duties. You doubled down on that yesterday, telling MSNBC that the country needs, quote, someone who can vote. Feinstein offered to step away from Senate Judiciary last week, calling on Majority Leader Chuck Schumer to appoint a temporary replacement. But I understand that doesn't resolve all the issues for Democrats or for the country. Is that right, Congressman?
That's right, Reverend Sharpton. Look, if it was that easy, maybe it would work. The problem is that it requires Republican consent. And we don't want Senator Schumer using political capital just to get that kind of consent. It's unclear he can even get there. But the biggest thing the president can do right now, especially given that the Republicans have the House, is to confirm judges. I mean, we have a judge in Texas who's writing sexist opinions saying women don't have the emotional stability to understand their own health, giving doctors standing instead of women to talk about their own health. It's an outrageous decision. The president has been extraordinary in appointing these judges, and we need someone who's going to be able to vote. I have a lot of respect for Senator Feinstein, but I hope she'll see that it will help her legacy to step aside and allow the governor to appoint someone.
I want to make sure we have time to get into your recent three-state trip. I understand you were in South Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Iowa, promoting high-tech education to community college students in rural areas, part of a collaborative effort you've pulled together between some major tech companies, local governments, and universities serving minority groups, including historically black colleges. What is the idea behind the partnership?
Well, it was an extraordinary moment in Benedict College. I was there with Whip Clyburn. Google is paying a $5,000 stipend to these young folks. They get an 18-month credential, 10 hours a week with a Google mentor, and then they get a job at the end of the $65,000 to $100,000. You know, the black community was excluded, as you know, from the agricultural revolution, in the industrial revolution. Shame on us if they don't participate in the digital revolution. And we also went to rural Pennsylvania, rural Iowa. We can do this. We can provide these jobs to people who have been left out of this prosperity.
With yet more mass shootings this weekend, what else can be done legislatively to make this madness of gun violence stop?
We know what needs to be done. We know we need an assault weapons ban so we don't have these weapons of war out there. We know we need background checks. But the thing I don't understand why we can't at least get is red flag laws. And that is, if you know that someone has made threats, if you know that someone is threatening violence, we should be able to go to a court and say, please don't let that person have a gun. And that seems to be the most common sense legislation. I hope people will just see that there's humanity here, not politics, and put the politics aside and get something done here.
All right. Thank you for being with us this evening, Congressman Khanna.